Welcome in the latest episode. Of course, as we have a bunch of sounds going off in the background. Welcome in the latest episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, real_G Warner. Today, we're going to go through the top 5 European soccer leagues, or at least 5 of the top 6, and come up with some best bets. 4-1 the last 5 ultimate best bets that I've watched. There's one pending from Thursday. But trying to keep this roll going, what I'm essentially going to do is go through the top 5 European soccer leagues, or 5 of the top 6, as I just said, pick out one bet from each of the leagues, and then cut a little 1-minute YouTube short or Instagram reel, depending where you're watching. You find me at the real_G Warner on both those platforms. But then I will pick one that's a favorite that while I record this Friday, March 8th, and then we will go from there. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out. Patreon.com/real_G Warner, the best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, and everything, especially with a big month. It is March, so big month of March coming with a ton of college basketball plays. Conference tournaments are already started, but there's a huge onslaught of them next week with the biggest name teams. I expect to be heavily involved there. Also, stay tuned for a college basketball podcast on this feed, the Betting the Pitch Podcast Network, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. I'll be recording another episode of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast with my co-host Big East Ben. That should be coming in the next few hours. But since this is a soccer pod, and thank you for coming in, it's time to start finding where the money is, and we'll start on Saturday, early morning start here in the United States, 6:30 a.m. Yikes! But I'll try to make sure I set my FPL lineup before that all occurs. We'll start with Manchester United, a half a goal favorite at home to Everton. Over under here is 2 3/4, juiced very heavily to over. Maybe we see this hit 3. I think I'd be very interested at playing under 3 potentially there, as I'm not really a believer in either of these two offenses. We saw Manchester United basically try to stall a game throughout last weekend on the road at Manchester City in the Manchester Derby. Took a 1-0 lead on kind of a miraculous shot. Really credit Marcus Rashford for his little poke there. But unfortunately, Manchester United were not able to hold their lead, and were not able to hold the cover nor the under, with 2 late goals conceded and 3 in the second half in total. I don't think Everton are really in as much of a position to threaten the Manchester United goal, because they've been really struggling. Surprisingly, EFC Everton Football Club have been a lot better away from home than they have been at home, especially with that big crowd. It's really odd to think about. But Everton are in relegation trouble. They had their 10-point deduction reduced to 6. They're still in big trouble. So I'm not necessarily a believer in them going to Manchester United and getting a result. So that half of a goal feels pretty small. I think I'd want to see a full goal of insurance, but I do like that under 2 3/4, which look like it's going to hit 3 before kickoff on Saturday morning. Moving next to Wolverhampton Wanderers hosting Fulham. Currently, Wolves a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on Fulham on the road. Over unders 2.5. Juice more to the over. Wolves are going to try to play a very slow and methodical game, try to keep a low-scoring matchup. I do think that they will be able to dictate pace at home. I think that's an okay game for Fulham. They want to score more goals, of course, and I think they're a lot more attacking than Wolves are, but I think they are very comfortable in a low-scoring matchup, and especially away from home at that. I feel like there's extremely high juice right now in Fulham, so it feels like it'd probably be a pick 'em at other sites. Quoting lines courtesy of Bet Online, which if you're not a member there yet, check it out. Bet Online. Also, we have SportsBetting.ag, sister sites for each other. I have links in the promo codes in the podcast description on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify plus YouTube. So if you aren't a member there, go take some free money, as first-time depositors get 50% at Bet Online and 100% up to $500 at SportsBetting.ag. But anyway, back to this one. So Fulham, I'll probably be interested in them as a quarter goal underdog here. It's very juiced at the moment, but I also like under 2.5 as well in that matchup. Just really am not much of a believer in the Wolves. I'm a believer in Wolves as an underdog. Don't really think they're comfortable as a favorite, nor do I think they're going to try to score a lot of goals, even at home, especially after a pretty poor performance last weekend at Newcastle. Crystal Palace then hosts Luton Town. Currently, Crystal Palace a 3/4 goal favorite at home. More juice on Luton on the road. Over unders 2 3/4. Juice pretty heavily to under. A lot of goals expected in this matchup, or any matchup that Luton Town play. Very different situation with Crystal Palace, and especially with Oliver Glasner, their manager, who came over after being out of work after not being able to agree on a contract extension with Eintracht Frankfurt in the German Bundesliga. It's a battle of one team that's not going to score much, but do play well at home versus another that are going to try to score a lot and has defensive questions, plus a lot of injuries in the back line. I think for that reason, it's really hard for me to have any interest in backing the underdog here. But if I got to pick something, I'll probably lean to under 2 3/4. Though certainly would love three, though the juice is not pointing like it'll get there. Bournemouth then hosts Sheffield United. Currently, Bournemouth a 1.5 goal favorite against a team that's arguably just focused on the second division next season or trying to really show their attacking talents to potentially get hired or signed on to another club, transferred somewhere else. I don't really know what situation or how to handle Sheffield United. I'm certainly not interested in backing them at this point. Over under here is 3, and juice is split both ways. That's probably my biggest interest in that Sheffield under 3. It's probably higher than it should be. Bournemouth are an attacking side at some points, but usually want to play defensively. I think this is going to be a tough setup for them because they're used to, I guess, withholding or I guess withstanding pressure from their opponents, even at home. But Sheffield United are probably going to sit in a shell this whole time. I think that's Chris Wilder's modus operandi at this point, and I think he's just trying not to get embarrassed as the manager. I wonder how long he sticks around and if I miss his firing this week. But under 3, I feel like no one really wants to back unders right now, especially after Sheffield United keep getting embarrassed week after week. I don't think Bournemouth really have the roster to do that though. Arsenal then hosts Brentford. Currently, Arsenal a 3/4 or 1 3/4 goal favorite. Sorry, 3/4 would be pretty cheap. 1 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. So it looks like this is going to climb to 2 before kickoff in the late window on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening in England. In North London, I think it would be. Total here is 3 1/4, just a little bit more to under than to over. So it looks like we have Arsenal climbing towards 2. Maybe we stick around probably at the 3 1/4. I can't imagine there's a ton of under money coming in on Arsenal matches at this point, at least not to swing a number. Brentford have been, I guess, improving, but still look really, really troubled and really problematic. I don't really want to get in the way of Arsenal, though they do have a very big Champions League match coming up with Porto, and they have to turn around a deficit there. So maybe we see some rotation or at least some early substitutions, especially if Arsenal are able to kind of get this game into a comfortable lead. I guess I'll lead to under 3 1/4 just because I think Brentford's going to try their best to keep this a game as long as possible. But their defense has been pretty problematic so far this season. Aston Villa then hosts Tottenham. Currently pick 'em right now. Aston Villa with all the juice right now, probably climbing to a 1/4 goal favorite. Over under here is 3.5, juiced more to over, and Aston Villa did play in a first leg in the Europa Conference League, I believe it is. So Tottenham's certainly going to be a lot better rested. We're seeing their team get a lot healthier, which I think explains this number a little bit. I'll be waiting to see if Tottenham move to a 1/4 goal underdog. Aston Villa have been great at home, but I'm just not sure that that's something I expect to continue, especially split between competitions. This is clearly more important to them because they want to get Champions League next year, at least financially, I would expect it to be for the club. But I guess there is always interest in playing in Europe during the week and things of that nature. But I think that will probably zap some energy from Aston Villa. They did a little bit of rotation, I think, in preparation for this match, but still Ollie Watkins out there. He's their most important player at this point. I'm not sure how he scores so many goals, but he has. I'm most interested in Tottenham. I don't really think I want to do anything with a total because I just can't play unders with Tottenham at this point in the season or this point in the Ange Ball legacy. Brighton Hove Albion then host Nottingham Forest coming off a trip to Roma in the Europa League. Brighton a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice on Nottingham Forest on the road. Over under 2 3/4, juice all the way to over. So expecting some goals here. Brighton coming off a tough trip to Roma, fell behind 2-0. Really bad mistake by Lewis Dunk, who is the captain and seems like he should be a trustworthy type of rock at the back, but he certainly has not been so far this season, or at least was not on Thursday. Quick turnaround, I think, especially for an early game on Sunday. I expect Brighton to be pretty exhausted. So I'm looking to see this total if it climbs to 3. That's my biggest interest at this moment because I'm not a believer in Nottingham Forest. They've somehow been finding a lot of overs ever since Nuno Espirito Santo took over. He's not fixed that offense. He's going to be in a shell, I expect, especially against Brighton, even though they probably have the horses. It's considered one of the deepest squads in the Premier League because they've spent so much money and probably get a points deduction because of it and their breach of financial play regulations in England. But at this point, I'm looking to be against Brighton, especially I mean, if they got to a +1 favor, or if they're giving a full goal to Nottingham Forest, I think I'd be interested there. And the more I talk about this, I'm actually more interested in Nottingham Forest as well. So I'll add that 3/4 of a goal underdog to my list. Plus, I do like under 2 3/4, waiting for that to hit under 3. West Ham then hosts Burnley, coming off a disappointing trip on the road to Sport Club Freiburg in the Schwarzwald, or the Black Forest in southwest Germany. Still don't know how there was no penalty given at the end of the game. I know Hernandez from La Liga doesn't like to give penalties at end of matches. I know he's taken one away from Celta de Vigo earlier in the season, even at home. West Ham a little bit different on the road. Probably don't expect to get so many calls that are borderline, but I guess he was calling a push in the back on Soucek, but I mean, I didn't really see that. And the youngster Weishaupt, his hand was straight in the air. Like literally he was raising his hand trying to answer a question. So don't understand that one, but I'll take it. And I think West Ham are going to be pretty potentially exhausted from a trip. And then similar to Brighton, a very early start here. I guess Roma is probably further than the Schwarzwald in Western Germany to England, but still got to travel, still have to fly back. That's not great. And I think actually Brighton played a little bit earlier, so that's probably better for them. In terms of this matchup, West Ham a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice to Burnley. Over under is 2 3/4, juice more to the under, almost all the way. I don't know really what to do with Burnley at this point. They are certainly looking like they're going down. West Ham are, I think they're built to score goals better. They're clearly taking the Europa League seriously, starting their best, though I don't know what their best defense is at this point. They make big mistakes. Didn't really have too many against Freiburg, but did fall behind and lost the first leg 1-0. So we'll see what happens here. I think my biggest interest here is under 2 3/4, though it's really hard to want to do that with West Ham, even though Burnley should not put them under much pressure. Looks like the last match on Sunday is Liverpool hosting Manchester City. Pretty big one, if you don't say, for the English Premier League title. Liverpool currently a 1/4 goal underdog with all the juice. Over under is 3, juiced all the way to over. And it's going to be really hard for me to avoid playing Liverpool here. I do like that 1/4 of a goal. They did play a pretty attacking lineup, or pretty full lineup on the road at whoever they played in Prague, at Sparta Prague. Earlier this week, as I feel like I'm going to have to sneeze, and I really hope that doesn't happen on camera. That'd be disgusting, probably, and not great for anyone's ears, but I think it's past. And anyway, we'll see when it comes back. But Liverpool, a 1/4 goal underdog at home to Manchester City. I think this has a draw written all over it, which I think would be a bad result for Liverpool at home and would put Manchester City in a much better position to win the title. But Liverpool are in the lead, and Manchester City have a really tough slate of games coming. They did play midweek, as did Liverpool, but Manchester City got to play earlier, so that helped. But I like Liverpool getting that 1/4 goal. I also have a theory that when big clubs, and especially in title winning games, when they play each other, I feel like the low scoring matches are much more likely. We got a total at 3. It looks like it might hit 3 1/4 based on where the juice sits right now. I'd expect over money to come in as well game day. So I'm pretty interested in Liverpool getting that 1/4 goal. And I like under 3 potentially climbing as well by the time this kicks off on Sunday morning here in Dallas, Texas. Moving to Monday, we have Chelsea hosting Newcastle. Currently Chelsea a 1/2 goal favorite with more juice at home. Over under is 3 1/4, juice more to the under. And I don't trust either of these offenses. I really don't trust their defenses either. Two teams I want to play against. I don't think I really want to do anything with Newcastle getting a 1/2 goal at Chelsea, though it feels like a decent price to fade Chelsea as well. So maybe I should put that on the list. Newcastle getting a 1/2 goal, but I think I'm more interested in under 3 1/4, as I just feel like that's got more of a just a je ne sais quoi of me just not really being interested in seeing Chelsea or Newcastle, or not really believing that they're going to be able to score goals efficiently. So that'll do it for the English Premier League. I'll move to La Liga in Spain, but before we get there, give an ultimate best bet, and I'll make that Liverpool getting a 1/4 goal at home dog, as my best bet from England. So now we'll move to Spain. I already mentioned Patreon, so if you're not over there, check it out. If you're not following on Twitter, of course, hit the follow button, _G Warner. You'll find me there on Instagram, on Patreon, on where else will it be? YouTube as well, same, the _G Warner. Awful handle, I realize, but I took it a long time ago, and I can't change it now. Moving to Spain. So we have some Saturday matches. Unfortunately, I missed all the Friday slate across these other leagues. My bad. Was trying to get college basketball stuff out to the Patreon subscribers, the patrons on there. And I think they were probably would prefer that to make sure I don't miss out on some things. But Valencia, they host Getafe, which is the kit I'm wearing today. Um, Really, I bought it because of the Techno Casa. I think is an insurance group. They're not paying me, so I probably shouldn't say anything about it. But regardless, that was something I liked as a kit sponsor, unlike most of these like huge Hyundai logos for Olympique Lyonnais from back in the day when I was in Lyon. But anyway, back to the soccer, back to why you're listening. Valencia, half a goal favorite at home with all the juice on Getafe on the road. Over under is 2, juice heavily to under. And I feel like Valencia, they're probably at a pretty high valuation for this matchup, considering how well they played in a home match against Real Madrid. Got saved by a ending of the match early by Jesus Gil Manzana, the like worst La Liga referee with the highest experience rating or FIFA ranking or something like that. Just a disaster all around. But Valencia, half a goal favorite. I question their offense. I honestly was questioning more about their defense, and then watching the broadcast against Real Madrid, they're talking about how that's really what Barajas, their manager, has brought in, was a real stability defensively. And I'm like, I'm just not so sure that that's the case, but they'll get certainly a good test from Getafe, who've scored way more goals than expected this year. I am concerned about Getafe's offense, though, because it's just really not something they really pride themselves on ever. But also, I think Borja Mayoral, their leading scorer, looks pretty impaired, if not damaged. Probably doesn't start here with an injury. I think it was like a calf or a hamstring, one of those muscular injuries that doesn't seem to heal in a few days. Getafe, I think, had a 3-0 lead and drew 3-all, or maybe 3-1 lead and drew 3-all. And so they probably should have some focus on defense. It's very juiced at the moment. I think, speaking to potentially Borja Mayoral, excuse me, absence. But I think that's my biggest interest here is under 2 in that matchup. Valencia hosting Getafe. Moving next to Cadiz hosting Atletico Madrid. Cadiz, a 3-quarter goal underdog at home off of some pretty good results for them. I mean, late draws in their last 2 matches that won't get them out of the relegation mire, but it certainly is helping them with confidence. Atleti on the other side, I thought played I mean, they didn't do much against Real Betis. They just took advantage of big mistakes, didn't finish a penalty, and Alvaro Morata eventually scored later in the match. I guess I should give Atleti some credit, but they've been so bad away from home. I'm actually interested in Cadiz. I mean, getting 3/4 of a goal, it's going to be hard for them to cover the spread without scoring, and I'm certainly not expecting them to. So maybe I should like under 2.25 more. That's just a little bit more to over than to under. So maybe we get 2.5 before the kicks off. I think this is a low scoring match. Atleti have Inter coming in the Champions League in the midweek. So there's definitely some eyes that will be focused, or most eyes focused on that matchup more than this one. I think it's a perfect situation for Cadiz. So give me that 3/4 of goal, and I like under 2.25, probably better, but also in that one. Granada then hosts Real Sociedad, coming off a really poor performance. We'll see what Granada can put out there. Real Sociedad crestfallen as they're now eliminated from the Copa del Rey semifinals, from the Champions League knockout rounds. So they're probably beat up. I mean, they are beat up. We know that. But emotionally, I think in addition to the physical challenges they've been having, but they get to go to Granada, who are one of the worst teams in La Liga, a team that's not that should, I think, respond to an awful performance getting smoked by Villarreal last weekend. I think conceding 5, which was a really poor performance for them. And I expect some defensive focus here. Total is at 2.25, which is pretty low considering coming off of that type of result. But Real Sociedad, who didn't score through, I mean, hit the crossbar first half, first leg against PSG on the road in Paris at the Parc des Princes, but then ultimately only got a late goal after the match, and the aggregate was 4-0, clearly decided. I think 89th minute, Mikel Merino, just one of those, bundled it in after a bunch of shots on target, or I think Donnarumma was out of position. Anyway, Russell should have been scoring goals at all this season. They've run into just being stretched too thin across too many competitions, coupled with, I think, more injuries than most teams. But that's what happens when you get stretched so like that so much. So give me Granada under 2.25 is my best bet in that matchup. Moving now to Girona hosting Osasuna in the nightcap on Saturday. Pretty underwhelming, but that's what happens when Barca is playing Friday as they prepare for Champions League midweek and the visit of Napoli. Girona, a 1-goal favorite to Osasuna. Osasuna with all the juice away from home. Over unders 2.75. Juice split both ways at 2.75. I don't know where this is all coming from with Girona. I mean, they've been nowhere near the form that got them and had them leading La Liga table for a long time. Now 7 points back of Real Madrid, if I'm not mistaken, and things have not been going the right direction. Osasuna got a big win. I think it was very fortunate on Monday night at home against Alaves. but you can't let Ante Budimir get on his left foot, and he took a shot from outside the box, probably like a 5% XG with all the players in the way, but it went in. That was enough for them to win 1-0. And I think they go to Girona confident, and Girona are really nowhere near where they were earlier this season. I think they're going to try to be aggressive, and Osasuna will let them be aggressive and let them have the ball. But I trust Jagoba Arrasate, and I think that he will have a great game plan. So +1 is too big, I think, for Girona to offer right now. So give me that. And I like under 2 3/4 as well, though Girona certainly are not an under team. We're waiting to see if this hits 3 before the kickoff on Saturday evening in Spain, afternoon here in Dallas, Texas. Moving to Sunday, we have Alaves, a quarter goal favorite at home to Rayo Vallecano. All the juice on the Alaves side, so maybe this hits half of a goal. That does feel high considering Alaves' struggles and that big mistake late to let Altay Budimir get on his left foot, but it happens, especially the promoted sides and with younger players. Over under here is 2, juice is split both ways. I don't trust either of these teams to score much. I probably don't want to deal with Rayo and backing them away from home, so I think I'm more interested in under than that side. Moving next to Las Palmas hosting Athletic Club Bilbao. Las Palmas a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under is 2 1/4. Juice heavily to under, or at least more to under. We'll see what happens with the total here. Las Palmas had been basically under, and the Las Palmas side have been literally winning every weekend, it felt, for a very long time. Then they started to become a favorite, and that started to not work so well. But now as an underdog at home, I think they're in a really great position. Athletic Club have been playing a ton of matches. Of course, they got to the Copa del Rey final and then responded, I think, fairly well at home against Barcelona last weekend, covering the side and the under for me. So thank you to Athletic Club. I don't know if Nico Williams, he should be back for this matchup after clapping a referee after getting a suspicious yellow card and getting sent off the week before. He did not play in he did play in the Copa del Rey, but did not play against Barcelona. So I expect he should be back here and not in the stands. That certainly adds a threat, but I think Las Palmas, they should be learning that they've had some really bad defensive performances the last couple weeks at Atletico Madrid, and I think it was on the road at Getafe as well. I expect a response. I expect they're going to try to possess the ball and keep it away from Athletic Club, which is kind of how Athletic Club want to play, is they want to counterattack you. That's how they've been doing it for years and years and years. They're better this year and certainly in the Champions League space, but I think they still want to play that way. So give me Las Palmas getting half of a goal at home, and I like under 2 1/4 right now as well. Real Madrid then hosts Celta de Vigo. Currently Real Madrid a 1.5 favorite with almost all the juice. Over under is 3. Should juice slightly to under. Celta de Vigo are going to go and try to keep this as low scoring as possible. We saw a very odd kind of defensive lineup that Real Madrid used for RB Leipzig in Champions League. I don't know. We probably see something more attacking and aggressive, but unfortunately, there will be no Jude Bellingham because he's suspended for telling Jesus Gil Manzana he's a joke, I think, or a clown maybe at the end of the match. Don't think that deserved a 2-match ban. I don't know if that's been reduced, but he should not be available for this one unless he's appealing or something like that. Regardless, even if he's in there, I still don't really trust Real Madrid's offense. Haven't all season, and I think coming off that midweek match, I think they're going to be a little bit weary. So give me Celta getting a 1.5, gigantic price. Also under 3. I probably like under 3 better than the 1.5 if anything. But Real Madrid, where do their goals come from? Jose Lu Mata is not just coming off the bench and scoring 2 goals a match like he was for a fair amount of the season as a substitute. Vinny Jr. is awesome, but he can't do it all alone. And if Jude Bellingham's suspended, then where do the goals come from? Moving next to Real Betis hosting Villarreal, the nightcap on Sunday. Betis a half a goal favorite at home. All the juice on Villarreal on the road. Over under is 2 3/4. Juice very heavily to under. Villarreal with a disgusting performance at Marseille, but probably should have been up a man after 2 minutes. And I can't explain. Refereeing in the sport is absolutely gone. It's horrible. And it's despicable, and VARs are a joke, plus the rest of them. Now that I got that out of my system, I'm probably going to shame the referees again later in the show. But there's at least one. If you're counting, you can fill it out on the bingo card. Just hope it's not a drinking game because I get you hammered because I am not happy. I was texting my friends. I'm already pissed, and we're 2 minutes in this match, and then course, they also had deserved the penalty that was completely ignored by VAR and the on-field referee as well. I guess Villarreal, I mean, I'm not sure their reaction to it. They're going to be probably pretty beat up after crushing Granada and then getting crushed themselves on the road to Marseille. They're probably going to be a little bit weary as well, traveling back. Their manager's probably super upset considering Marseille fired him, sacked him earlier this season. But then we bring in the Real Betis side. They finally had a good result at home against Athletic Club in a very good spot, but then really just made some huge mistakes. Hector Bellerin, I mean, oh my God, what a bad day at the office he had last weekend at Atletico Madrid in the Wanda Metropolitano. I don't know necessarily. I don't like either of these teams. I want to be against both of them. Unfortunately, they're playing each other. I don't think I really want to be on a Villarreal side right now that I still don't believe in. There have been scoring some more goals, and there have been a lot of goals in their recent matches, but I still think Real Betis is an under team. And I think Villarreal is just going to have to play a defensive brand. I think they're going to go to the Benito Villamarin with their tail between their legs, and I think they'll be a lot more cautious. So I think my biggest interest there is under 2 3/4. And last but not least, Almeria hosts Sevilla. Currently, Almeria a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.5. Juice more to the under, and it's pretty respectful numbers. If you have turned it around, they're playing a lot better now. I don't know if the days of them being huge underdogs will still be around, but Almeria, bottom of the table, haven't won in literally the entire season, and I think they've set records in Spain for the longest time without a win. I don't think that changes here, but I do like their unders. I think they're still playing very hard, and I think they make it hard for Sevilla to score while not being able to score themselves. So give me under 2.5. Almeria hosting Sevilla. So before we move to Italia in the Serie A, I think I'm going to have to figure out the best bet from Spanish La Liga before we move into the next league. And of course, put that into the ultimate best bet end of show. And I think my best bet or my biggest interest is probably, I don't know if I want to give out an under 2 because I don't think that's as attractive, unfortunately. But not knowing necessarily, I'm gonna go with that Osasuna under 2 or Osasuna getting a full goal right now. Osasuna +1 is my best bet from La Liga. I just feel like I like that a lot better than I like the really anything else. I just don't think Girona at all deserve to give that type of number or that type of price. So I'll make that my best bet for La Liga in Spain. Moving now to Saturday in Italy, we have Cagliari hosting Salernitana. Currently, Cagliari a half a goal favorite at home. Juice is pretty heavy to the Cagliari side, which I don't understand where that comes from. They are newly promoted, fighting relegation, and I have not seen anything to deserve that. But regardless, Salernitana also very bad, fighting relegation themselves. This is a big one at the bottom. And I feel like a lot of the time these matches turn into rock fights that you'd see in college basketball or just games that don't see a lot of goals because you're really racing for that first goal. And then the response is really what determines the total and the outcome of the game. If 1-0 turns to 2-0, then the total is going to be in real trouble. But it's 2.5, so if it ends 2-0, we could still win. But getting back to 1-1, then I think it's the best case scenario. If there is goal scored and gives time to have an equalizer, that's probably a good scenario to keep this tight and keep these two teams just trying not to lose. But Salernitana, so getting a half of a goal feels big, and it feels like it might hit 3/4 before this is all kicking off on Saturday morning. Also here in the U.S., also interested in under 2.5, though it's very juiced at the moment. Sassuolo then hosts Frosinone, another battle of relegation candidates. I wonder what the heck the celebration will be Saturday morning for these two matches all at the same time. But Sassuolo, a quarter goal favorite, almost all the juice on Frosinone on the road, over under 2 3/4, juice all the way to over. And I guess you could see that because considering Frosinone's defense has been so bad this season, Sassuolo have just been bad in general, but they just lost Domenico Berardi to an ACL. He's been their goal scorer, and when he's been absent, they've been really struggling, but they are in a relegation fight, and they've sacked their manager. They're on a new one. I don't know that things went very well for them against Verona last weekend. That makes me want to be on the other side that's been at least fighting relegation and is a little bit better standing at this point. I do have concerns about Frosinone's defense, but I have more concerns about Sassuolo even at home because they just don't really fill that crowd either. And I like under 2 3/4, which could get to 3 before kickoff on Saturday morning. Bologna then hosts Inter Milan. Currently, Bologna a quarter goal underdog at home. All the juice on Inter on the road. Over unders 2 1/4. Juiced more to over, and this is pretty respectful line of Bologna, maybe because they came back, equalized, and got a victory on the road at Atalanta last weekend, or because Inter are also looking ahead to that 1-0 lead on aggregate when they head to the Wanda Metropolitano and face a pretty poor run of form, but it's still a pretty strong Atletico Madrid team. Bologna have been great at home. They've been great defensively. I don't think a draw is impossible. I'd love to see this hit a half. so I can win a full bet if they do get a result at home. But I like under 2.25 as well, though fading Inter is not really my favorite or my cup of tea at this point. Moving next, the nightcap on Saturday, Genoa host Monza. Currently, Genoa a quarter goal favorite with almost all the juice. Over under is 2 with all the juice. So maybe we see this climb to 2.25. Genoa have not been as defensive of a side despite being promoted and being a yo-yo team. They'd gone down 2 seasons ago, then came straight back up. Monza were one of those sides that I think were expected to go down, but showed a really good fight, desire to score goals, and I think kept them in the league for another season. They've been good this year so far, despite losing a lot of their players. I don't really want to fade Genoa, though, because I think they're a really good team. And I don't think there's much for me to do with the total here at only 2, especially with 2 teams that want to attack. So I think I'm going to let that one go. Maybe, I mean, if I have to put something on the list, I know Joe Dollar wants these. So there we go. And maybe these would hit at a really high rate because I'm not an over player. But when I see Genoa Monza at a total of 2, yes, it's very juiced over at the moment, but that's too low. So I guess I'm interested in over 2 in that one. There you are, Joe. Moving now to Sunday, we have Lecce hosting Verona. Currently, Lecce, a quarter goal favorite, a little bit more juice at home. Over unders 2.25. Juice very heavily to under. Lecce are not a great defense, not a great offense. I swear they're like dairy farmer or farm hand who's like a bodybuilder or something like that. Bashirotto, their center back, who's always in that team. He's looked really bad to me this year. I don't know if it's an age thing, if people have figured it out, or maybe just those popcorn muscles really aren't doing that big of a service to him. Regardless, Verona have been fighting, and they are about as, I mean, they needed such a cash infusion. They just said, basically, if you want anything, you can take them. You just have to pay us for these players. And so a bunch of Serie A grabbed players from Verona, as did, I think, other leagues as well. But with that said, Verona have been really competitive. I like them getting a quarter of a goal. It's probably too low for me to play, but I think under 2.25 is more of an interest because I just don't really trust Lecce to win matches at this point. And that's the early one, 5:30 a.m. local time. I hope I will not be awake for that on Sunday morning, but I will watch it at some point, likely on delay, and hopefully will not be spoiled by any of my beautiful followers, friends, fans, anything out there, because I do try to watch every match and not know what the score will be, but it's becoming harder and harder, as most people know. I'm into soccer now. Milan then hosts Empoli in that 8 a.m. window, which I will be awake for. Milan, a goal and a quarter favorite, more juice on Empoli on the road. Over unders 2.75, juice a little bit more under. Milan coming off Europa League midweek. That's going to potentially zap their legs a little bit because they did put out a very strong lineup. But they're really fighting for Serie A. I think they're trying to keep Inter from winning another title, another Scudetto, as it's called. Empoli have been playing really well. I think Davide Nicola, their new manager, maybe third of the season, who literally does like Saints Savior. He basically is like raising Lazarus from the dead in Serie A every year, and then everyone moves on from him and doesn't want him to be their coach. I don't get it. Keep him, free Davide. But at this point, I'm interested in Empoli as a goal and a quarter underdog on the road against a tired Milan side that had to play a big match midweek. But it's probably not enough to make it so Milan don't score. Though with that said, I'm pretty interested in under 2.75. I might like that better than Empoli's side, actually. Juve then hosts Atalanta. Currently, Juve a quarter goal favorite. More juice than Atalanta on the road, coming off a Wednesday Europa League match against Sporting Lisboa, which does help them to, I think, balance out that rest issue a little bit. Over under here is 2.25, juice more to the over. I don't really see a lot of goals. Atalanta gave up a bunch to Inter and unfortunately conceded an equalizer, or unfortunately for them, conceded an equalizer to Bologna and then gave up another to lose at home. I expect Atalanta, especially with a little bit better run of fixtures, they've been playing every 3 days for the past 2 weeks, it seems. I think they'll be in a little bit better shape having Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off before Juventus. Meanwhile, Juve coming off a very disappointing, got an equalizer after controlling a whole game, but fell behind, had to equalize, and then brought an 18-year-old to play midfield who not only conceded a penalty by stepping on Osimhen in the box, no business doing that, but then also didn't like block out or track anybody on the penalty save by Wojciech Szczesny, the goalkeeper, and the man that he should have blocked out essentially scored. So they ripped him off right away. Gonj, I think it is. He shouldn't be anywhere near this team at this point. And unfortunately, when you play youth players instead of other players, you're taking big chances, and you shouldn't be doing that. And Juve got they got punished for it, and I think they deserve it. And Massimo Allegri is just a joke of a manager. But I do like to bet on his style of managing because he wants to win 1-0. I think that plays to Atalanta potentially getting back in the match if they fall behind. I also think it plays to under 2.25 here as a nice little hedge if Atalanta do lose 1-0. But I think Atalanta can win this game. And so give me Atalanta getting a quarter of goal and also that under 2.25 goals total. Last match on Sunday, we go for Fiorentina hosting Roma. Roma playing midweek against Brighton and Hove Albion from England, but at home. Now they're on the road in Firenze in central Italy, which is not too far from Roma. I haven't been to Firenze, but I've understood. I was looking at maps trying to figure out if I can make it all happen. Currently, Fiorentina a pick'em. They played midweek as well on the road at Maccabi Haifa, I want to say, in Israel. So that's going to be tough. I mean, getting ready for that one. Yikes. But Fiorentina, a pick'em, more juice at home, over unders 2.5, juice very heavily to under. Now, Roma have been scoring a ton of goals. Paulo Dybala has been on fire, but I think Fiorentina's game plan is to possess the ball. I know that. And they're going to keep it away from Roma, which I think fits Roma's kind of style, even under new manager Daniele De Rossi when they go on the road. I just don't necessarily think that they are in a position to score as much. And keep up scoring as much as they have so far. I don't think I want much to do with Roma until they move to an underdog. So I'll put Roma 2.5, under 2.5 is my biggest interest in the Italian Sunday night fixture. Moving to Monday, Lazio hosts Udinese, coming off their Lazio's elimination on the road at Bayern Munchen in the Champions League. Yeah, they were I mean, just it's hard to even excuse the effort. I mean, playing in a low block to try to keep Bayern from taking a 2-0 lead, certainly I understand that. But then they really didn't do anything the rest of the match, and it was pretty disappointing from a Lazio perspective. But now they get to play only Serie A the rest of the year and try to fix their form. But they're mid-table for a reason, Serie A. They haven't been scoring many goals. Udinese come in as a half a goal underdog, a little bit more juice on the Udinese side. Over under is 2.25, juice more to under. And that's probably my biggest interest here. I'd like to fade Lazio, though, as well. I just don't know if a half of a goal is enough for me to want to do that. But under 2.25, I think is worth speculating for that Udinese on the road at Lazio match. And for my best bet in Italy, I'm going to go with that Atalanta under 2.25 goals. I think it's going to be a really tight matchup, and I think we see a low-scoring one. 1-1, we draw 1-0 either way. We win on a 1-1. We win either way, 1-0. Goalless, I think, is possible, more than you'd expect from two big clubs in Italy. But we'll see what happens in that one. I like Atalanta under 2.25 was my best bet from Italy. Two leagues left to go. We have the German Bundesliga, and then we have French Ligue 1. Want to also mention if you're not leaving a 5-star review and you've been listening to this podcast for 4 seasons or something like that, please get on that. I have some good news, hopefully coming up pretty soon about the direction of this podcast and specifically the soccer side, but still doing some negotiating. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to tell y'all to potentially hold tight for a little bit. But thank you for your support. I really appreciate you listening. If you could leave a 5-star review, that'd be huge. And Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, great for the search rankings. And if someone types in betting, pitch, soccer, whatever sport we're covering on this network, I think we get up there quicker if we have more 5-star reviews. So that would be really, really appreciated and might force me to put in some more effort into figure out how to edit this thing. And also potentially do a little bit better of a image creation, though no one's really complained about that so far. So if you're really disappointed with my Photoshop screenshots or something like that, please let a guy know. We'll move now to the German Bundesliga. Still got 2 leagues to go, so stick around. I know a lot of you have been with me this whole time. I appreciate that. Start with Bayern Munchen hosting Mainz 05. This is a battle of a team. Mainz have been battling. Bayern Munchen have been battling themselves. Currently, Bayern a 1.75 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 3.5. Juice all the way to under. One SC Mainz 05. They are fighting. Can they score? I don't really think they can. So that makes me lean under more than to play with potentially trying to stay with Bayern Munchen. Of course, Bayern can blow out this total themselves and hit the over. I'm just looking to be against Bayern as much as I can at this point. It also looks like we might get 2 goals, but until we have that, I don't think I want to have any interest in Mainz. Mainz have had some good results over the years against Bayern, but they could argue they're a bogey team, as they call it in Europe, but Different manager for Mainz. It's I think the second or third one of the season, so it's hard to argue that cohesion is there. But there's none on the Bayern side, so I'm interested most in under 3.5 in that one. RB Leipzig then hosts SV Darmstadt. Currently Leipzig a 2.25 goal favorite. More juice on Darmstadt on the road over under 3.5. Juice pretty. Just a little bit more to under, and I would expect Darmstadt. No one wants to back them after their horror show last weekend. Um, They've been a great under team, honestly, for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I guess I can't fully just hate them for their performance, though it was historically bad. I mean, the amount of goals they gave away, I guess if you're going to do it all in one match is when to do it, as opposed to killing my unders other times. But Leipzig coming off Champions League on the road at the Bernabeu in Real Madrid. So that's, that all points in the Darmstadt direction. 2.25 goals, gigantic price. Leipzig have been awesome at home in years past, but not this year. Man, if you have bigger cojones, stones, whatever we're calling them in other languages, balls than I do, I mean, back in Darmstadt, they're probably getting way too much in this matchup. I'm probably going to chicken out and go for under 3.5 as my biggest interest in this matchup. But I guess talking about it, and I think that's part of why I do this podcast for y'all, but also for me, I should probably play under there. And it's going to be tough, but they should have a defensive response. And I imagine they're not going to try to play out of the back. They're just going to try to kick the shit out of the ball as much as they can because they know they're down and they just don't want to get embarrassed the rest of the season. And honestly, sometimes that's the time you want to buy in, which I mean, we're buying low, about as low as possible if you look at any of the goals they conceded last weekend. Moving next to Borussia Mönchengladbach hosting FC Köln, a big derby in the Rhineland. Gladbach, a half a goal favorite at home, almost all the juice over unders 2.75 with almost all the juice to under. And it should be because Köln are the best under team maybe in the sport. I mean, literally doing all they can with 10 men, somehow keeping it under against Bayer Leverkusen, the team that hasn't lost to anyone in any European competition or any competition across all competitions this season. I think Köln are incredible for unders. They can't score goals, which does make it very hard to back them as a side. I'm interested there, but it's going to be a really tough crowd environment. Gladbach have scored a lot at home, but I'm not really sure I trust them. They're really great at corner kicks, but those set piece plays, especially corner kicks, are to me they feel like they are fool's gold. Give me FC. I'll take that Cologne under 2.75. Hope it moves to 3. I doubt it will get there, but we've seen a lot of goals in Gladbach matches this year, and very few from Cologne. I expect the slower pace, low scoring game even if it's a road team to take heed, pay heed, whatever. Too much Kansas on the brain. Moving next to Augsburg, hosting FC Heidenheim. Currently Augsburg, half a goal favorite at home with more of the juice. Over unders 2.75 juice all the way to over. We might get a 3 here. Not a believer in Augsburg offense. They get it from forcing turnovers. It worked very well against Darmstadt, but I imagine Heidenheim, they're going to be a little bit more coherent with the ball because you can't be any worse than than whatever we call them. Darmstadt were last weekend. Heidenheim, they really outplayed Frankfurt last weekend. Had a ball bounce off the turf. I tweeted it out, which probably got taken off for piracy or something like that already. But back pass, back to the goalkeeper, no pressure, very little pressure. I'll be honest, but hits a divot because Heidenheim are one of the poorest teams in the Bundesliga. I think lowest budget. Hits a divot, hops over the goalkeeper's foot as he tries to kick it into the goal. Eintracht Frankfurt 0.05 expected goals at halftime, but a 1-0 lead. And then, of course, that was the decider as Frankfurt eventually did score, take a 2-0 lead, and Heidenheim could only get one back. So I lost my play on the side. Would have been an even worse loss on the total, though I guess it was still pretty bad on the side. I think Heidenheim respond, but I am wondering about the status of Jan-Nicolas Beste. They're like left winger, left midfielder. That's their best creator. Does all the set pieces, corner kicks, all that sort of stuff. Without him, I probably skip this away from home, but I think I'm most interested without him at playing under here. And we'll wait to see a 3 pop in that one. In the Topspiel Saturday evening in Germany, standalone match, we have Werder Bremen host Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund going to have a home match with PSV Eindhoven in Champions League, which I think is 1-1 on aggregate. So pretty big match coming up. Potentially could see a poor performance from Dortmund because they're thinking about that matchup as the Bundesliga is gone. Though the Bundesliga Champions League place is still important to Dortmund, I don't think that is the apple of their eye at this point. Werder Bremen have been awesome, but kind of struggled. got a late goal and nearly an equalizer on the road at Hoffenheim to end a streak that I think had been three consecutive road victories, which they'd never won four in the Bundesliga. If I heard that correctly, I was surprised by that, considering Werder Bremen, I think, won the first Bundesliga in 1992. Regardless, or the way that's it's structured now. I like Werder Bremen at home. I like their crowd. It's amazing because I was trying to be against them as much as I could last year. Total here is 3.25, juice more to under. I like under there too. I think Dortmund are going to try to get an early lead and get out of there. I don't think that happens very easily. And I think that plays into under, and Werder Bremen not trying to play a shootout. We move to Sunday. We have Bochum hosting Sport Club Freiburg. Currently, Bochum, a quarter goal favorite at home. Surprising, but Freiburg got a big win, but did exert a lot of effort on Thursday. They seem to be playing a Manuel Gulde plus a whatever his first name is, Matthias Ginter, center back combo right now. They don't have any other options, it seems, but that's been going fairly well. Sedilia was on, I think was playing right back. They subbed in Lucas Kubla. So like Freiburg have gotten a lot healthier. It's amazing they're still alive in the Europa League because they were 2-0 down in the second leg, looking like they're about to crash out to Ross Club de Lens at home after surviving to get a goalless draw on the road. But credit them, credit Christian Streich. I think we can trust the Freiburg management team and everything about that club, though they're always going to be low budgeted and selling their best players off. Bochum on the other side, they are low budgeted as well, and it's weird to see them as a favorite at home. They certainly get a lot of results at home, but usually it's as an underdog. They're going to play a much higher line and be a lot more aggressive. That's what they've done, but they, I think, got taught some lessons by RB Leipzig last weekend. I don't know if they then become a little bit more conservative as a response to that, because Freiburg are ultimately a lot better Europa League team multiple years in a row, win their group and then get through their group or whatever it's been so far. I think Bochum as a favorite is something I just like to be against. So put Freiburg on my list, getting a quarter of a goal. It's pretty juicy at the moment. We'll see. I imagine that sticks around, though, just based on playing Thursday Europa League. But I lean to under 2 3/4 as well, as I think the Freiburg under run is back and it will start and it'll keep hitting, especially with European distractions and especially after a really good first result that got a 1-0 victory. Move next to Eintracht Frankfurt. Out of all European competitions, they are hosting TSG Hoffenheim. Currently, Frankfurt a half a goal favorite. All the juice on Hoffenheim on the road. Over under is 3. Juice more to under. I think that's a response, or Eintracht Frankfurt to me are a defensive side that have not been defending. That's a big problem as a favorite. It's a problem for the under as well, especially when you consider that Hoffenheim are not a defensive team either. But Hoffenheim with 2 great breaks of the presses last weekend against Werder Bremen, who had been playing really well. I feel like that can work against Eintracht Frankfurt as well. There's a lot of concerns here. I do like the push on 3. I think below 3, I'm probably not playing it. But I do think that half of a goal is too big for Eintracht Frankfurt to give anyone right now. I'm looking to be against them as much as I can until they figure out their defense, their offense, a lot of things, really. And we got one more match because I guess we got 3 on Sunday because of the European competitions and so many Europa League teams. Bayer Leverkusen, only undefeated in Europe, I believe, at least in the top 5 of 6 leagues that we're covering. They're a 1.5 favorite to VfL Wolfsburg. A little bit more juice on Wolfsburg on the road. Over under is 3. Juice more to over than it is to under. And Leverkusen, I mean, they've been paying out unders a lot over the past few weeks. I think they're really missing anything up front from their striking position, but I'm not sure it's going to matter too much. Wolfsburg, they can't win matches, and I think they know that they have to keep this as low scoring as possible. Going on the road, I think it also helps because they're going to do their best to I think they're very satisfied with a goalless draw, and I think Leverkusen know that they just need to keep putting points on the board, and Bayern München will not be able to catch them. Of course, they need to win, but I think Wolfsburg will go and see a draw on the road as a great point for them moving forward. Might keep Niko Kovac in a job, who amazingly has underperformed as much as he has, despite having a pretty good talented team that was spent a lot of money on. I just don't trust Wolfsburg, and I think the 3 that we can push on is pretty big. So for my best bet in Germany, it's hard for me to look away from that one. I think I'm going to go with that Wolfsburg under 3 goals. Great position, especially after Leverkusen played in the Europa League or Europa Conference League midweek. That they can get a potentially weary side that hasn't been scoring goals, and I think is getting overpriced in the marketplace because they're not really scoring much whatsoever. So now we'll move to France's Ligue 1, which is the last league we'll do before we get to Ultimate Best Bet. Thank you for staying tuned. If you've been with me the whole 49 minutes so far, if you want the 1 minute real and Ultimate Best Bet stuff, just hit the real_G Warner on Instagram and on YouTube, and you can watch in a minute what you could have gotten in 50, or what's probably going to track for an hour. But we'll move to Saturday early match. Lorient hosting Lyon. Currently, Lorient, a quarter goal underdog at home in France's league. Over under here is 2.5. Juice more to under, a little bit more juice on the Lyon side. Lyon without Alexander Lacazette looked about as juvenile as they could last season, as they had all season when they were sitting bottom of the table. He's their goal scorer, and if he's not there, it's a big problem. He's probably kept them from relegation, and they were trending in a very correct direction. But Lorient, they've been fighting relegation. They've been playing really well since 2024 started. They're a team that is great at finding young talent. I think they were trying to work in a lot of young talent and was really struggling towards the second half of the first half of the season. Sorry if that's hard to follow, but I like how Lorient have been playing. So give me that. I like that quarter of a goal that they're getting at home. They're usually an underdog at home, so I'm not surprised by it. I like under 2.5 as well, and we'll see if Alexander Lacazette can recover from the horse kiss, as they call it in German on transfer market, but I believe it's a Charlie horse is what we'd call it here in the United States, or maybe in England. I don't know exactly what they call it. Poppycock, probably. Anyway, we move next to Lens hosting Stade Brestois. Currently, Lens a half a goal favorite. All the juice on Stade Brestois on the road. Over under is 2.25. Juice is split -110 both ways. If you're not a member at BetOnline or SportsBetting.ag, there are links in the podcast descriptions to get free money. Go take advantage of it. I've used it myself even in the last couple months. So Stade Brestois, they've been playing great. They are way up the table, above anyone's expectations for a team that usually fights relegation. They're going to Lens. It's going to be a really tough environment, but they're getting a really nice spread, and I don't think Lens are really that impressive to me at this point. I think I want to make sure we get this half of a goal before I play a quarter, but it's probably even money or better getting odds on a quarter, barring some sort of move. So that still interests me, I got to say. And I think this is a low-scoring game. Both teams want to make it as low-scoring as possible. I think that's really good for the road team, not having to compete on the scoreboard, and especially good for under 2.25. Moving to Sunday, PSG hosts Stade Reims. Coming off their elimination of Real Sociedad to move on to the quarterfinals in Champions League. PSG, a goal and a quarter favorite with more of the juice. Over under is 3.25. Juice all the way to under. Stade de Reims, they have not played well since 2024 began. Is now the time to jump on to Will Still. Their wins seem to be fortunate, come from behind variety. I don't love that. PSG, like, who knows what they care about in Liga at this point? They want to win Champions League. I mean, Kylian Mbappe, like, his dramatic story is hilarious. He's going to play for Champions League, but they've pretty much already got Liga wrapped up. Surprise, surprise. For that reason, I'm interested in Stade de Reims, even though they haven't been playing well, and into that under 3.25. It's all scary all around, though, so I got to think about it. But Reims are a very defensive side, and I expect them to play defensively on the road at the Parc des Princes in Paris. Le Havre then hosts Toulouse. Currently, Le Havre, not a great run of form, I'll admit. And I've been backing them and their side and under back, like, on every match going back weeks and weeks and weeks now. And it was awesome until the break. I wonder if they're running on fumes. They had a bunch of players that left for the AFCON or the Asian Cup, whatever that period was. And now they are a pick 'em at home to Toulouse, which Toulouse has been playing great since 2024 started. Le Havre have not. Toulouse are trying to rescue themselves from relegation. Also had Europa League in there with Benfica that I thought they deserved to go through on, but didn't happen. I'm interested in the Toulouse side. They're giving more. They got more juice in their side at Pick'em, though, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. I guess it wasn't completely, but I think the biggest interest here is that Le Havre, I don't think, can score many goals. Toulouse seem like they're going to be the ones away from home that have to carry the scoring load. And I don't really think that's going to happen. So put under 2.25 on my list for Sunday morning here in Dallas, Texas. Football Club de Metz then hosts Clermont Foot. And currently Metz, a quarter goal favorite. Juice is split both ways. I never really thought I'd see it, but Clermont Foot are so bad that makes sense. Over under is 2.25. Juice more to over. I think this is a stalemate. I mean, Metz scored 2, dominated a game against Football Club de Nantes. last weekend on the road, surprising, got a penalty and then scored another goal and kept a clean sheet. And I expect that's what they're going to potentially do here. Clermont Foot's offense is a joke. Their defense can be a joke as well, but Mets don't really have as much. They got young talent, but they're not like a fortified offensive juggernaut, to say the least. That's why they're always underdogs at home. I think my biggest interest here, rather than backing Clermont, because I just don't really think that they can score goals without penalties. I think they're way less likely away from home. I like under 2.25 in that one. Racing Club de Strasbourg then hosts Association Sportive de Monaco. Currently, Strasbourg a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice over under 2.75. Juice all the way to over. Monaco deserve to be a road favorite. They've been playing really well. Strasbourg have not. And I don't really want to play unders with Monaco, nor really with Strasbourg either, unless they're the team that's supposed to carry the scoring load, and they're not here. Moving to the 10:05 Central Time window, Lille hosts Stade Rennais. Currently, Lille a half a goal favorite. They come off a Europa Conference League match, I believe, somewhere in some jurisdiction, and Rennes are out, so should be a lot better rested. For that reason, I'm more interested in the Rennes side, getting a half of a goal. It's very juiced at the moment, but I'll take it. Over under here is 2.5, and I do not really want to play unders with Lille unless they're rotating significantly, and I don't think they will be. And let's go to the last match on this episode, and then we'll get to the ultimate best bet. Thank you all for sticking around for 55 minutes. We have Marseille hosting Football Club de Nantes. It's currently Marseille a 1-goal favorite with all the juice at the Stade Orange Velodrome. Over under here is 2.5, juiced all the way to over, and Marseille should be pretty comfortable with another yellow team, another Canary coming in. Las Canarias de Villarreal, the Submarino Amarillo got murdered. I don't know that Nantes are going to play that same type of game. I don't think that Villarreal was playing that aggressively. They definitely have more attacking talent. I think Nantes are going to try to keep this as low scoring as possible. For that reason, I'm into the under 2.5. I am a little bit concerned of betting against Marseille, though, because they've been scoring a bunch lately. Their new manager, third of the season, has taken hold, and things have gone well since he's been there. I don't really know necessarily what I want to do that one, but I think my best bet from France before we get to the ultimate best bet, I'm going to make it that Clermont Foot under 2.25 goals. I'll just pay it. I'll put it on the list. I'll pay to see them score 3. I just don't think it's really going to happen. Two teams fighting relegation. I think it results in a very nervy battle, and I think that's not good for goal scoring or for the over. So now it's time for the ultimate best bet. Before we get there, if you're not a member of Bet Online, where all these lines have come from, or SportsBetting.ag, go take a look in the podcast description. If you're watching live on Twitter right now, I choose more characters for team names rather than link stuff. But please check it out on especially if you're watching this later. All you have to do is probably click. You can probably push a button. It'll take you. It tracks where you came from, so at least I get some notoriety at these sites, hopefully, for sending you there. But I'm not sure if I know you get free money, so go make sure you do that. Maybe it keeps Bet Online, SportsBetting.ag in the sponsorship category of this podcast. So all of it will be appreciated. But if you don't have money there, get more outs, especially for college basketball. March Madness, the openers are huge, especially in conference tournaments that I think generally 9 a.m. Eastern time is usually when I expect openers. If they didn't open the night before, that's a great time to really get in there, get a better price that you might not see the rest of the day or ever, that you might even miss a play on or win a bet that you wouldn't have had before. That's why openers are huge at Bet Online. SportsBetting.ag, links in the podcast descriptions. If you're not a member of my Patreon, patreon.com, just @real_G Warner. Download the application, turn on notifications. You get a buzz notification, however you prefer, each time I lock something in. So you make sure you get the same price, best price, and don't lose if I win. That's a worst case scenario. I know there's been some where I've lost and y'all have won from waiting, but that usually doesn't happen. I feel pretty good about knowing where lines are going to move, and that's generally how my strategy has been built over the years, many years now. I'm an old dinosaur, and I finally can say that I do sports betting stuff for a living, so that's cool. It's been a while since that, but thank you all for this journey, for sticking around, sticking with, and coming in, because this is what I love to do, and I'm just trying to make y'all some money so we can all retire, live on some beach somewhere, and really just attend these sporting events and sit in the really nice seats courtside. That's the goal. I will be in Kansas City next weekend. Lord willing, the creek don't rise. So if you are in Kansas City trying to go to some games, let me know. If you're going, you want to grab a beer at the Power and Light District, or I don't know, crush some barbecue. Probably not great for the waistline. It's almost summer, but who cares? When in Rome, when in KC, do as the Kansas Cityans do. Besides that, it's probably time to stop stalling. Hit the follow button on the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you see it. Thank you all for the support. We're about an hour in, so I might as well stop rambling. For the ultimate best bet, let's get into it. This is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet of the Betting the Pitch podcast on the European soccer, 5 of the top 6 soccer European leagues for this March 8th episode. For the English Premier League, I like Liverpool getting a quarter of a goal. In La Liga in Spain, I like Osasuna, a 1-goal underdog. In Ligue 1 in France, I like Clermont Foot under 2.25 goals. In the Bundesliga in Germany, I like VfL Wolfsburg under 3 goals. And in Serie A in Italy, I like Atalanta under 2.25 on the road at Juventus. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com. That's a real_G Warner. You get all my plays here, soccer, plus my college basketball stuff. It's going to be a huge slate, conference tournament stuff coming out all this weekend, next week, every day going forward. And I'll be doing a bunch of March Madness stuff as well. But for the ultimate best bet on this episode, I'm going to do Liverpool, a quarter-goal underdog at home to Manchester City. Certainly going to be some questions about fatigue, but I think Liverpool will get a result here, maybe even win. So take that quarter of a goal at home. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. And for those that have been with me this whole episode, appreciate it. I know it's a little bit later on Friday because I usually do Friday mornings, but stay tuned for Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast with at Big East Ben on this feed at Betting the Pitch on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. And I'll talk to you all very soon. Get ready for the tweet storm because there will be a lot this weekend.